Excellent. Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I feel really honored.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get in. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing so much about the way we were living, who we are, what we were doing. How did you get through the coronavirus era, and how has it changed the way that you do things and live in 2026?
Oh, well, for me, it was a difficult time period. However, in terms of my work, it was very easy because we were just actually beginning to move some of our courses online anyway that we teach. And I was already working with private clients online a lot of the time. And so that was not actually for me a very difficult transition.
So let me ask you this. If you were to boil down what you do on a daily basis, and I
Mhm.
put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids in the back of the room is like, what do you do for a living? How do you explain what you do?
Okay. So what I do is I help people to get in touch with who they really are. And as a result, life becomes easier, things become more fun, and yeah, we get to just feel like we're blossoming as a human being.
I think that's the beauty of living in this modern age we're in right now. What you're doing and what a lot of people out there are doing to help people get untethered and unburied from being alive for so long is finding their essence. Because I don't think 20 years ago this would have happened. There would have been anybody that would have been able to unfurl all of that. Do you ever think about that with what you're doing? That it's
Actually, it was possible 30 years ago, over 30
okay.
years ago, because that's when this method was developed. So it was really cutting edge. And, since then, there are a lot of other things that are aiming in the same direction. One thing that's different about this, about what I do, which is core transformation, is that we have research that shows it gets these results. So it isn't just me saying so, or, there's few examples of people who've had these changes, but we have research that shows that, um, you know, most people, the vast majority of people, can get positive shifts in their lives in the direction of more inner peace and changing their problems through this method.
So let's go back, let's peel back the layers and go back to your beginnings. What did you want to be when you were younger? What was like at 12? What was your dream career?
I honestly don't remember what I was
Okay.
thinking of when I was 12. That said, when I grew up, I had a lot of interests. I loved science. I loved math. I also loved music. And, there were a lot of things that I really enjoyed doing and loved. Actually, the first career that I into was music.
Okay.
And at the same time, though, when I was in high school, I got really intrigued when my older sister Connie Ray and her husband Steve were learning this new material called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that allows us to understand how it is that we can think, how it is that we create our own subjective world that we live in. And I was really fascinated by that. And so then, after I explored music for some time as a career, I came into the NLP field, and then from there into really focusing on core transformation as my main modality.
So you had mentioned before we got on that you're from Kansas. Where at in Kansas specifically?
Yeah, so near McPherson, it's a small
Okay.
town close to if you've driven through on I-70, you've driven through Salina, and we're
Uh-huh.
just south of there.
Okay. Is Salina where they have the Cozy Inn, that little burger joint? Is that where that's at?
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's
Um,
another city, but anyway, yeah, it's very famous. But I always get confused if it's Salina, it might be another town. But no, I know that well driving down I-70 as you're in Boulder. I've been through there quite a bit. So I'm curious. You obviously have a wonder about you. Where did all of this come from? Go back to your beginnings. How did these seeds get planted to have this curiosity and to ultimately get to a point where you're helping to change lives?
So going all the way back to the original seeds. So, I mean, as a teenager, I think that I found it easier to understand other people through what I was learning in NLP. And that was important to me because it's all about I mean, we're human beings, we're social creatures. And so it's a way to connect more deeply when we can understand each other's worlds that we live in and then make changes in them as well. So it's not just about understanding, but then when we know how it all goes together, then we can change our subjective experience. Like if we have a phobia or if we have, anger or if we, are eating too much or whatever, we can make these kinds of changes in our lives. And so I was just really fascinated by this. And so then I became, after my stint in music, I went into the field of NLP and became an NLP trainer because I just loved seeing people able to make changes in their lives. People maybe have struggled with something for a long time and then quickly make a change in their life. And then what got me into focusing on core transformation was that when I was first present in a core transformation training that my sister Connie Ray was doing, she's the developer of core transformation. So what I was seeing was not only were people making changes in their lives, so that they're changing behaviors and feelings and thought patterns, they were also reaching these states that we could call spiritual, really. States they were saying things like oneness, love, beingness, and it wasn't just a word. It was you could see it from the outside. It was a felt experience. I just had never seen anything like it, and is what got me hooked. And that's why core transformation is now a primary focus of my work.
So, a lot of the things that happen to us can sometimes come from generational lines of family, patterns that we aren't aware of. Do you think it would be beneficial in um, some kind of fantastical way to go back to the beginnings and to see how our relatives were living and what they perpetuated in our family line? Do you think that would help in our understanding of how we became subjectively creating creatures?
Yes. And I will also say that with the work that I do, with a lot of transformation work, the goal is really understanding ourselves with the idea that if only we understand ourselves well enough, then we'll be able to change things. However, that often doesn't work very well. So you've probably met a lot of people who could explain everything about themselves. They really understand themselves well, but they have the same exact patterns that they started with. So our model is more that transformation leads to insight, that we need to do something to transform our experience, and that will help us to have deeper insights into our nature. And so when it comes to intergenerational patterns, there's a process that we do as part of core transformation that involves transforming the earlier, our ancestors, we could say, our parents, our grandparents, to transform our own experience of them that we carry around with us. And as a result, then we have more sense of our true being, our true nature. Because what if we could have inherited, uh, a- you know, a sense of being in touch with ourselves? What if we had inherited this from our whole family system? That's the experience that we're going with this method, so that no matter what upbringing we actually had, we can give ourselves the gift of having, we could say, spiritual parents and grandparents that deliver to us this sense of beingness, sense of oneness, sense of profound love or peace that we're really striving for, that we have been striving for, and that we don't need to strive for. We can just step into it and have it.
So, who's been your inspirational force in your life? Who's been kind of a heroic force that's allowed you to evolve and to find your place?
Yeah, so I would say that would have to be my sister, Connie Ray.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not just saying this because it's me, because she's my sister.
yeah.
She is really widely recognized as being uniquely gifted. Some people even say that she's kind of a genius in this field and very innovative. She's come up with not only core transformation, but other methods as well that are really groundbreaking. And so, yeah, I feel just really lucky that by accident I was born into this family, and she's my older sister. And that said, anybody can learn these methods. You don't have to be related to Connie Ray. We have actually also research that shows people who study with us learn how to get similar results to what we get.
So, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, maybe in
Mhm.
your field or otherwise, that you could talk to and have a little time with that might help you on your journey, is there anybody you would love to talk to?
Gosh, anybody I'd love to talk to. You know, I really feel like all the people that I need to talk to, I'm already talking to them.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there are definitely um, ways in which I can expand my knowledge, and I do by, paying attention to other people who've written other books or, developed other ways of thinking and etc. And so I find that enriching. And that said, I feel like I really have if I were to go back in time to when I was in my early 20s, and at that time I was more, you know, kind of struggling in life and really seeking a path that felt congruent to me and had a sense of ease to it, and I in my early 20s, I was not finding this path. However, over time I would say that I am so blessed to have the connections that I have needed to find this path.
So, in our human transformation, as we enter this modern age of AI and all of these things that are blurring the lines between real and artificial, do you see the advent of AI helping us in this transformation as human beings, getting to a better place, or do you see levels of hindrances? How do you view this new technological behemoth that humans have kind of engineered?
Yeah. So the answer is yes and yes. I think AI certainly can help a lot. I just recently had some questions and I just type in my question and AI gives me the answer, or one answer, and that said, I think that there is also, there's a pitfall there. I think many people make a mistake of beginning to think of AI as if it's another human, only smarter. And that isn't really true. AI doesn't have a conscience. AI can say things that aren't true and it doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Although it's going to apologize when called on it, but it doesn't really care, so I think that um, my hope is that as humans, we can utilize and draw on AI for what it can do for us, which is to crunch a lot of data and give us some answers or clues for where we might look into more primary sources and research further. However, I think that the potential pitfall there is if people are fooled into thinking that AI is wise or that AI is caring, because I really doubt that AI is ever going to be either of those two things.
Right. I agree. So let me ask you this. Being in this field of helping people transform, things change all the time. You have to stay on an educational learning curve, but you also have to be effective at your job. When that alarm clock goes off in the morning, how do you do all of that? Continue to learn and grow, do a good
hmm
job for your clients, take care of your soul. What is that energy for you every day?
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that I'm glad you mentioned taking care of your soul, because one thing that I do, I would say most days, maybe not every single day, but most days, is I will use the same methods that I teach other people with myself,
Mhm.
for my own benefit. And I think that that not only helps me, of course, it also helps me to help others. In fact, looking at the people that we teach these methods to, I would say that the people who have applied these methods to themselves, including myself, we applying it to ourselves, we're then much more able to help others, as compared with those who are just learning it to help others. It's like they need something. I don't really need anything, right? And then that doesn't tend to lead towards being as effective as a guide. Because if you were going to be going on a wilderness adventure, into some unmapped, untamed, unmapped territory where you had never been before, and you needed a guide for this. Would you want a guide who had never explored this territory himself or herself?
Right.
Most people would say no,
Yeah.
so going through this territory with our own inner experience is such a key, not only for our benefit, but to help others too.
So let's say you had a dream tonight. You ran into the 18-year-old version of you and you had a big book in your hands. And it was kind of a coffee table book. And it was your life so far. And you handed it over and that young version of you looked through it. Would they be surprised at the life you've lived so far?
Yes, yes, I think so. And not only that, they'd get some tips that would make the path a lot easier.
Would you give any advice at that time?
Advice. Well, at that time, these methods that I'm using were not developed yet. So I would either want to teach that younger me some of these methods, or especially core transformation, or I would, yeah, if I was just going to give what's typically called advice, I would tell the younger me to just to say it's just okay to be comfortable with yourself. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay to have flaws and foibles. Everybody does. And it's all right to be comfortable with yourself and unapologetic about that, about just being you as you are right now. And and to have a goal of just exploring and learning something. And you'll succeed at that. So don't worry
Absolutely.
about anything else.
Yep.
Just explore and learn something and you'll be fine.
So, of everything that you've done in your life and accomplished and overcome and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
Hmm. That's an interesting question because I um I don't actually seek pride in things.
Okay.
And so I find that pride can actually be something of a trap.
Yeah.
Um, so that said, I can say, if I adjust the words a little bit,
Yes, and I was going to
you
say
know,
that. Sometimes I readjust to be like happiest about that kind of a thing
mhm.
because pride can be an ugly thing.
Yeah, yeah. Satisfaction, let's say things that I'm satisfied about. Um, yeah. Well, I'm really satisfied that I made the career choice that I did. I'm really satisfied that I chose to have a family, and yeah, and I'm satisfied that I chose as an individual person to be on the path of evolution for myself. So those are, I think, three things that I'm really satisfied that I did, happy that I did.
So I'm going to dive a little deeper into that
Mhm.
answer there and ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. We all have these pockets of people in our lives family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that gets your books. But you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. Okay. Well, who I think I am is a person who, at the very root, I'm actually an ordinary person. So what I am made of is the same thing that everybody else is made of.
Yeah,
And and that to me is a key for happiness, is to just let ourselves be ordinary and be who we really are. And so that's who I am. Then as far as things that I do, people can accomplish things great and small, and those are important in life. They're part of what gives our lives meaning and purpose, and they aren't who we are. And so I'm not sure if I've actually answered your question or not.
no, you did.
I might just be rambling at this point.
No, it was philosophical, but it was deep. I totally get what you're saying. It makes total sense. So if anyone wants to get books, they want to reach out, they want to hire you, they have questions, any of the good business, where's
Mhm.
the best place for them to go?
Okay, so you can find me and the whole material that I'm teaching at andreasnlp.com. That's ANDREAS NLP, like Nancy Leon Paul, .com /free. and that will, give you some free resources. And, at this website, you can also track down how to contact me if you want to reach out. And there's a lot of free stuff on the website that I think that people could find interesting and explore for some time.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. I will put links in the show notes. This has been wonderful, Tamara. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your story. This has been very illuminating. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Joe. By the way, I just love your interviewing style. I love the
Thank you.
questions that you come up with, and yeah, yeah. So thank you for including me in your work, in your mission.
It's been an honor. Absolutely. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much.